What's going on? It's Kyger1324 up here today with something a little bit different. It is a top list of sorts. Now I don't want this video to go on forever. I've got a time frame on my phone, so I'm going to go through this at a good speed. Now what this video is it's an Xbox 360 video. Now these are games that I personally believe that I own. Now, yes, I know there are tons more, but these are games that I own personally and think that these games actually, in a few years' time, are going to actually end up getting quite valuable or rise in value, because at the moment, Xbox 360 is actually one of the cheapest consoles to collect for. In fact, some Xbox, you can go in with to CEX with £30 and come out with at least between 5 and 10 Xbox 360 games. So Xbox 360 is very cheap to collect for and actually a great console to collect for. Now there are a few things that make Xbox 360 games go up in price. Obviously the first one is popularity. Popularity does make a game's value soar, and also another thing to be aware of is sequels. If a game's sequel has come out on the new console, sometimes the original version is going to go up in price as well. And another thing to keep an eye out for is backwards compatible. Xbox One being a system that can now play certain Xbox 360 games, and of course a lot of these Xbox 360 games you've got to bear in mind, I personally believe when they become backwards compatible they go up in price. Now I haven't included every single one that I have. These are just, I've got here about 41 games to show off which I believe will go in value. Now the first one is LA Noire. Now I know a lot of people will be thinking this game is really cheap now. Yes, this game is very cheap to get now. Like I said, it was only £3 here. But I think this game is going to rise in value because it's a Rockstar made game that is actually a very good story-driven game. This game has some controversy surrounding it due to racism and other bigotry, and also this game is one of those detective-style games, but does a very good job of it. This game makes you feel like a detective. I think this game will rise in value just for the sole purpose that it is a Rockstar game, and I think we'll be seeing this game backwards compatible at some point soon. Next on my list we have Blue Dragon. Now this is I just picked out one JRPG. Now this game was exclusive to the Xbox 360. Now there is a version on a version that was on the DS. Now the DS version was a bit different, of course, but this is a really good JRPG turn-based game. I'm not overly keen on turn-based games, but I enjoy this one. It's a great game. I personally think this is going to rise in value. It's very cheap at the moment, but I think it will rise in value over the next few years, as will many of the JRPGs on the PlayStation, on the Xbox 360. Just for the sole purpose, the Xbox 360 did not have a ton of JRPGs, because obviously Sony got rights to a lot of the Japanese RPG style games. And this one's cheap at the moment. I think it will rise in value, and it's backwards compatible, which means it will become more sought after. Next, I've got here a selection of games. These are the Transformer games. Now, in my opinion, these are we've got the first one, Revenge of the Fallen, Dark of the Moon, and War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron. I personally think all of these Transformers games are going to go up in price. At the moment, they seem to be quite cheap, which is quite good. But like I said, the cheapest one was £5, but the most expensive was £8. Now, these games keep changing prices, especially these two. These constantly go up and down in price. I think they become a little bit cheaper because you can get digital versions on the Xbox Ones right now. But I don't know if they are remastered games or they just are the Xbox 360 versions, but on an Xbox One, I don't know. I think the Transformer games are going to keep value. They are. These two especially are considered very good games. The movie-based ones are considered to be decent, but nothing special now. I think these games will definitely raise in value, not because of the online community, because they're pretty much dead, but because Transformers is quite popular, and with the new movie Transformers is going to be quite popular. So I've got to be careful, guys. keep an eye out for the Transformers games, especially on the Xbox 360. There is also Rise of the Dark Spark, but that's cheaper because it's on the Xbox One as well. Next, we have one Lego game. Now, Lego games are, again, keep an eye out for Lego games, just because Lego games are constantly going up in price and going down in price depending on which. But I've just picked out one here, which is Bionicle Heroes. The reason I picked this one out, just because for the sole purpose that Bionicle, essentially, Bionicle is coming back in a way. I've seen some Bionicle toys, but this game's quite cheap now, but be careful because this, I think, most Lego games are going to go up in price, and I think Bionicle Heroes is one of those Lego games that was actually, this is a precursor to DT. It was a TT games, but it wasn't like the newer Lego games. This one was more of a third-person shooter style game, but it's actually a decent game. It's also on PS2 if you want to get the cheaper version, but this game's about a £5 now, but I think it will go up in price. One second, I'm just going to get my tea. Sorry, I had to get a cup of tea. The next game on my list is a horror game, and that is Deadly Premonition. Now, this game is actually quite cheap. You can find this game for less than a £5 nowadays, but I think this game is going to go up in price because it's considered to be one of the most underrated horror games on the Xbox 360, and I believe it also came out on PS3 and PC. I can't guarantee, don't take my word for it, but I'm sure it came out on the other consoles. It's a game that's very similar to Silent Hill in its weirdness, but also takes notes from a lot of classic horror games like Fatal Frame and Clock Tower and things like that. And this game is considered to be very good. I think this game will become backwards compatible soon anyway. But I reckon this game will go up in price just due to the fact that it is considered an underrated game and it's getting more and more popular. Next, we have a Rock Band game. Now, music games, like sport games, don't keep value, but this one, however, does. As you can see, it's still semi-sealed. I say semi-sealed because it's slightly undone. And that is Rock Band Song Pack 2. You don't see this that often. I very rarely see this. This game's actually quite, for a copy like this, it's going to cost you on eBay about £15 to £20. So I personally think this game, if you have it sealed, is going to become quite uncommon down the line because I don't think many people brought this, and that's the main reason. And as for Song Pack 1, I don't know so much about that. Next, we have a collection game, and that is the Dreamcast Collection. Now, the main reason I think this game is going to be quite uncommon down the line is just because Dreamcast is becoming more and more popular, and of course, I think that most people try and cash in on the fact that you can get both Sonic Adventure on here for the main reason, but you also get Sega Bass Fishing, Space Channel, F Part 2 and Crazy Taxi. 4 decent games, but I think this is going to come up raised in value just due to the fact that it's Dreamcast themed. Next, we have a game that I do not see at all, and that is EA Create. Or just Create. I think this game will become quite uncommon down the line. It's quite uncommon now. It's not an expensive game. It's very cheap at the moment, but I think this game will become quite a harder to find one down the line, just because for the sole purpose I don't think many people brought this game. So I think we could see a price raise in that. Next one on here is a bit of a controversial one in terms of what people might think, but I think TNA Impact. The main reason I think this game is going to raise in value is because there's only 2 TNA games. There's this one, and then there's one on PSP, which is actually very hard to find for some reason. This game I think is going to raise in value just from the sole fact that it is a TNA game, and there haven't been, other than WWE games, there haven't been any other wrestling games that aren't WWE themed, and I think because it's a TNA themed game, I think we could see a price raise in this. It's cheap at the moment, so get it while you can. It's an okay wrestling game. It's nothing special now. It probably wasn't back then, but it's a TNA game at the end of the day. I don't watch TNA. Again, all these people on here now are pretty much in WWE, but I just think this one might raise in value just for the sole purpose of the fact that it's a wrestling game that's not WWE. Speaking of wrestling game, we've got here Rumble Roses XX. This was a very I guess we can say controversial game back in the day. It's a women's wrestling / fighting game. It's considered to be a semi-decent game. This game was considered to be a very one of those, you know, where hey kind of games, and YouTuber bait, I guess. I think this game might become a little bit more rare and uncommon down the line. You do not see it that often anyway. I've only seen it a few times in stores. It's a cheap game, like it says right there, £3.50, but I think this might raise in value due to the fact that it probably wasn't, just because I think more and more YouTubers might start playing it. Next we have Omitera, City of Gangsters. Now this is a game that I haven't played. I can't say much about it, but I think this is a sort of XCOM style gangster game, and I think that's probably why this game might become a bit more expensive down the line, just for the whole sole purpose it's a RPG / strategic game. And it's kind of, I don't know, I'm sure this is a strategic game, but I might be wrong. It might be a top-down shooter, I don't know, but I just think this game probably didn't sell very well, and you do not see it that often at the moment. Now, by the way, I'm just saying that these are all European region or UK, so this is mainly for the UK people. I don't know how it is in America, because in America there are some games that are more expensive. For example, Futurama on PS2 in America is about a $60 game, whereas here in the UK it's only about £3, which is equivalent to about $5, if that. Next we have here Monster Madness, Battle for Suburbia. I do not know a lot about this game, excuse me, but I think this game might become a little bit more uncommon and rare down the line, and it will definitely raise in value, just because it's one of those games you look at and you think it's cheesy, you don't know a lot about it, and I think most people passed on this game when it came out, and to be honest, I haven't played it. I will get round to playing it one day, but I don't know a lot about it, but I just think it might raise in value. And speaking of zombie games, we got here Blood Drive. This is another game that I think might raise in value. It's a zombie themed game, but it's a driving zombie game, so it's similar to maybe Carmageddon style game. I think just for the sole purpose of that, it might raise in value, because it's a zombie game, and zombie games do raise in value over time, but also due to the fact that I don't think a lot of people bought it. Now this game, again, I think this game, and that is Leisure Suit Larry Box Office Bust. Now yes, correct me if I'm wrong, this could be one of the worst Xbox 360 games of all time, but that could actually save it, because sometimes bad games equal good videos, and I think this might raise in value just for the sole purpose of more people might keep trying it and buying it and trying it, and it might raise in value because people will start to realise how bad this game is and want to try it for themselves. And that sometimes is a weird thing to say, but sometimes bad games can equal sometimes a good video, and also sometimes we see that sometimes that video games, when they're bad, equal good YouTube videos, things like Angry Video Game Nerd and stuff like that. Another one here, it's I'm just throwing it on a limb, and that's Summer Athletics 2009. It's a game that I haven't really seen that often. I think this might raise in value. It could, it might not, it might, just going out on a whim here, just because I do not see this game at all. I've only seen it once, that's why I picked it up. Speaking of another sports game, and that is Pure Football. Similar to the thing I said about what was I saying? TNA. Just because it's one of those games that's not FIFA or Pro Evolution Soccer. In this day and age, it's kind of rare to see that, because most football games is either FIFA or PES. So because it ain't even one of them, I think this might raise in value. It's a cheap game now. It's probably not a great game. What would you say? You know, it's football, but you know, sometimes that can be the sole saviour of it, huh? Speaking of another sports game, we got here Bigs to Baseball. Now I know baseball games very cheap in America. Here in the UK, we don't get these games back in well in today's day and age on the Xbox One and PS4. It doesn't matter because it's region free. But back in the day, these games didn't get released that often. American sport games don't get released that often here in the UK, and this is the only baseball game on the Xbox 360 that I've seen that is just, I mean, like I said, in the UK. In America, probably a very cheap and common game, but here in the UK, I don't see this at all, so that might be a cause for raise. Next, we've got here Dark Souls 2, but it is the Black Armor Edition. Now, of course, my copy does have the Steelbook, but I don't think it, and all it has is the Steelbook and the disc, the soundtrack. But if you have a complete in-box copy of the Black Souls, the Black Armor Edition, I think it might raise in value. This was a cheap game at the time. Plus, Dark Souls is considered to be one of those, again, YouTuber bait things. It's one of those very popular game. And From Software, I'm sure it's From Software. Was it BAM? I don't know. Yeah, From Software, again, are a very popular developer at the moment just because of the fact that they make solid games. But again, this is one of those games everyone tries at least once because it's very hard and rage-inducing. But I think the Black Armor Edition might raise in value just because it comes in this slick steelbook. Now, if you have the only thing that other than the soundtrack you would have got in here would be a some DLC code for some armor, which probably doesn't really matter too much now anyway. Another one here, just going to go out on a whim, and that is Darkstar 1 Broken Alliance. The only reason I'm putting it on here because I've never seen this game. I don't know a lot about this game. I think it's a space trading sim or RPG, which is like excuse me. It's one of those, you know, big open space games like EVE Online and stuff like that. And for that purpose, I think this game might become a little bit more uncommon down the line. This one comes in this slipcase, so I don't know if that makes it more valuable or not, but I think this game might become a little bit more uncommon and rare down the line. Speaking of limited editions, BlazBlue Continuum Shift. BlazBlue is making a comeback, so again, there comes the sequel, the BlazBlue game sequels coming into play. The fact that the prequels might become a little bit more uncommon, and of course this one comes with some art cards and character cards, and it also comes with, of course, the game, and of course, which does have a different style, and of course it comes with this lovely little art book. Ooh, how you doing? Some art books. So I think it's not one of the biggest limited editions, and I don't have a lot of limited editions, but it's definitely one that I think at the moment it's cheap, but down the line we could see a raise in value, and especially with limited editions. Some limited editions, people buy the limited editions, keep the game, and then or sell the game and keep the stuff, and then try to sell just the stuff on its own without the game in the future. So I think if this might become quite rare and collectible to BlazBlue fans, which is a kind of a small amount of people. It's not like Tekken or something, like, you know. Another one here that's just off on the whim, Anarchy Reigns. It's just a game that I thought I'd put on here. I don't see the Xbox One version, the Xbox version as much as the PS3 version. It's a Sega 3D fighting game. It's a decent game, give it a try. I think this might become a little bit more valuable down the line, just because it's one of those games that it's a fighting game that not a lot of people talk about, and some people consider it a decent game. Speaking of another deluxe edition, and that is King of Fighters 13 deluxe edition. The King of Fighters, again, Very popular series. Again, it's a Japanese fighting game, and this one comes with an art CD and reversible sleeve slash poster, which I do believe is in here. I haven't opened it up yet to double check, but I think this might become a little bit more valuable down the line. Speaking of Street Fighter and Tekken, how about Street Fighter X Tekken? Now, this game is considered to be a very decent game. It has a great roster and is a very decent fighting game, similar to the Street Fighter 4 style. I think this game will become quite valuable. It's somewhat rare at the moment. You don't see it very often that much, at least where I am. So I think this might become a little bit more valuable down the line, just for the sole purpose it's a crossover game that is actually pretty decent. And plus, you know, Street Fighter and Tekken are still quite popular. Let's get these last ones up here. Next we have Bikini Samurai Squad Onichambara. Again, just throwing it out on a whim here, just because it's one of those controversial style games. And I just think it's one of those games that a lot of people probably passed on. But you don't see it as much just because it's one of those perverted style games. So I think that could be quite an indication of what sort of people might be after this. Yes, I am aware that I have it in my collection. Another one here is Zone of the Enders HD Collection, but also I thought I'd put on Devil May Cry HD Collection. My copy is sealed, that's why I put it on here. I think both of these games will become quite valuable down the line, just on the sole purpose that they are good HD remakes, and I think that obviously this being a Hideo Kojima game, and Kojima left Konami, this is one of those games that it might become valuable down the line, and it's a decent game. And the same with Devil May Cry. It's one of those very popular game series, and people are still waiting for a new one. Another one here I put on there, and that is Far Cry The Wild Expedition. Now my one only has Far Cry 2 and 3, which 3 is backwards compatible. If you have a complete copy, which comes with the first game and Blood Dragon as a digital code, it might raise in value. But even so, you don't see this the complete pack as much as you do the individual games. Another one on here is Earth Force, Defense Force, Insect Armageddon. This game is now backwards compatible. Yes, I think the Earth Defense Force games might become a little bit more valuable down the line, just on the sole purpose that they are very fun games. Yes, these are mindless but fun. That's why I think these games might become quite rare. Well, not rare, but you know, valuable down the line. Another one on here I'm just going to throw out on a whim, and that's G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra. It's a game that I personally think is a decent game. Some people don't like it, some people do. I just think it might become a little bit more valuable down the line, just on the sole purpose that not many people probably bought it. Next we have Fairy Tale Fights, another one of those unique games. It's one of those games you think, oh my god, they really made a game of that. Very weird game. It's just basically a game where you go around as fairy tale people and kill a bunch of people, and just for that purpose I think this might become valuable down the line. Another one here, Velvet Assassin. I think this game might become a little bit more valuable down the line, just on the sole purpose that it's probably a game that a lot of people just won't didn't pick it up on the sole purpose that it wasn't, you know, Splinter Cell or something. Another one here is Men in Black Alien Crisis. I think this might become a little bit more common down the line, just because it's one of those games that probably a lot of people didn't buy, and it's a Men in Black game, so you know, it's Men in Black is beloved, and again, just going off on the whim. Another one in here is Marvel Ultimate Alliance. Now I know it's the wrong case, just a disc, but if you have the complete copy, Marvel Ultimate Alliance is becoming more and more valuable amongst collectors, just because it's one of those great Marvel games. In here we have Narnia Prince Caspian, but it's the steelbook version, so I think the steelbook version might become a little bit more valuable down the line, just because it's steelbook. and it's one of those games you think, why did it get a steelbook? It's a somewhat solid game, but it has faults. The outfit, just on the sole purpose that this is a very good game, and it's one of my favourite games of all time, so I had to put it on here. I think this might raise in value just because I think it's one of those games that a lot of people are becoming more and more aware of. And then we have Young Justice Legacy. Again, popularity. Teen Titans and Young Justice fans alike will sort of come out of their shell to try and hunt these sort of games down. And last but not least is Rise of the Guardians, because the reason I put it on here, because this game is very similar to Shrek 2 on the PS2, and we all know that game is fantastic, and also it's again a popular movie amongst people. So there we have just a small section of my games that basically in my Xbox 360 collection, which I think will become a little bit more valuable down the line. Now, I might be wrong, all of these games might even decrease in value over time, but it's just my opinions. And I am aware that there are plenty other ones that are more valuable. But these are just my personal games, and most of the games that I've showed off here are pretty solid titles as well. So anyway guys, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more in this sort of style, let me know. And of course, feel free to leave a like and comment below. And feel free to subscribe if you haven't already, and join the family. And have a nice day. And my emulator will be here tomorrow, so I will be doing videos on that tomorrow. And maybe even a pickups video over the weekend if we're lucky. So I'll see you soon guys, take care.